Hello and welcome to this week's episode of War Eagle Weekly. War Eagle to everybody out there. War Eagle to you, Josh. How are you doing
War Eagle.
tonight?
I'm doing pretty good after, a week of everybody in the house getting sick, me being sick, and all that other fun stuff. It's been a pretty good start to the spring.
Yeah, you held it down last week for us, and even though you were sick, I was out of commission, even more sick, and as our listeners can tell, I also still have that little bit of a head cold. But we are both here, both excited to talk about Auburn sports, and I tell you, I have been itching for it because I didn't get my fix last week. I was listening to the podcast and watching it, and the whole time I was just like, bring this up," and you wouldn't hit this topic I wanted you to hit, or talk about who I wanted you to talk about, and so I just was itching to get in there on the playback. So I'm really excited to be able to do this today. Um,
Glad you're here.
let's go ahead and dive right into it. We got a lot to talk about. Not a huge week of news, but transfer portal opened up, and that's kind of what everybody is talking about right now. Um, we've Auburn's lost one player so far this spring to the transfer portal, and Brenton Williams, who was a linebacker, not a
Yeah.
real big loss. Of the fact that you know after the spring, there hasn't been too many rumblings about people leaving, so I'm feeling pretty happy about that. I have a quote here though, um, from Hugh Freeze about the transfer portal. He did an interview with 247 Sports, and it goes, not that we're against going to the portal, but I really want to develop genuine, real relationships with people that will hopefully weather the onslaught of the portal people that come after you. Um, Out of context, it sounds like people are jumping through portals, snatching people up, and, hide your kids, hide your wife. It's what it sounds like, but we all know that he's obviously talking about tampering. It kind of makes it seem like he was maybe there's some players on Auburn's team that have gotten approached by those portal people, that he's talking about,
It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
right? Right. And I like to think that just that quote alone tells us that Hugh Freeze is above board. There's going to be tampering. It's hard to sit there and convince yourself that my school is not tampering. My school is not breaking the rules. But it really feels like Hugh Freeze doesn't like that at all when it comes to the transfer portal. And I'm hoping that that's the case. But, he's kind of shown us that, outside of feeling desperate needs, he has put a focus on high school recruiting rather than the transfer portals.
Which is huge in my opinion. The portal was good for what it was when we needed it. Whenever Hugh Freeze came in, he hit the portal hard. He got a lot of guys to come in and fill spots that we needed depth
Yep.
at. But in the long term, portal is not how you sustain a roster.
No.
You put them in where you need them when you need them, but in terms of making an actual team out of the portal is just that's not sustainable. It's not real. I'd
Yep.
much rather a head coach be wanting to develop relationships with high school players than worrying about these college players that have college experience, that have the ego, that have the taste for money now and wanting more and more and more from these other
Yeah.
schools. Whereas these high school players, they just want to make a name for themselves and actually earn something.
Yeah, yeah. Just ask Deion Sanders about this and how it's going
Yeah,
over there in
right.
Colorado. But at the same time, don't get us wrong. If we get a player that is money hungry and can help this team win, I'm pretty sure
Sure.
you and me both are just like, pay him. You
All
know,
for I'm all for
I'm all
world
for
breakers,
it.
but
So
yeah.
get yours. I'm a strong believer in that. I have been a strong believer in student athletes being able to get money for a very long time, and
Long
so
time.
I'm okay with NIL personally. It's one of those things like it's about time, but
It's leveling the playing field because you got guys
yeah,
like, these guys can tell you that they're not cheating till they're blue in their faces, but not a single person with an actual pulse believes them. No
yeah.
one in this world could convince me that Nick Saban was not behind the scenes paying these players. Not
We
a
we
single soul.
we've seen it time after time after time. We got Jeremy Pruitt. Was it Jeremy Pruitt up there at Tennessee putting money in McDonald bags,
Yep.
or was yeah? You
Yeah.
got. I mean, this goes all the way back to SMU, and really probably even before SMU.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I like that it's above board now, or about as above board as it can be. There definitely still is tampering again, like you Freeze is saying, but
That's never going to
um,
stop either.
there's some downsides to it. There's some ugliness to the transfer portal, but all in all, I think it's a net positive. Speaking of the transfer portal, before we dive into the players that Auburn is targeting in the transfer portal, once they have entered that portal, we got an announcement on Wednesday. It's kind of a big news. It's been alluded
Hold on.
to
What?
for a while now.
I don't. I don't think I know what you're talking about here, Cameron.
Oh, really?
I don't think I do. I'm being sarcastic,
Okay.
but I don't think I do.
So on Wednesday, the 17th, the Division One Council unanimous oh my gosh, I can't even speak
Unanimous.
unanimously adopted a new transfer rule that will allow all undergraduate athletes to transfer and play immediately if they meet specific academic requirements, regardless of whether they transferred previously. In addition to that, they can leave their previous school while academically eligible and in good standing and meet progress towards degree requirements at their new school and be eligible. It is subject to ratification by the board of directors at their meeting later this month, and if ratified, the rules would be effective immediately. So it's kind of alarming. I'm not huge on the fact that athletes can transfer as many times they want. I wish we would get like a 1 year commitment, like when you transfer and you sign that national letter of intent, if you will, in the transfer portal, and you're committed to that team for a year unless both parties agree to part, you know, amicably. But or else we're gonna start seeing like that defensive or that offensive tackle that transferred to Iowa when Saban retired, and then now as reported he's
Took
transferring
his name out of
back.
the portal.
No, no, no. He officially enrolled at Iowa, participated and practices there, and then said, "Nah, no, I'm going back to Alabama," and is transferring back to Alabama.
He's back
That's
in the
been
portal.
reported. Yeah, yeah. So I'm not big on
I
that,
agree.
but
I would happen to agree, especially when NIL is involved. There's got to be
right,
some sort of commitment when these players are getting paid to, play ball at the university that they committed to. So I would
yeah.
agree on that.
So, but I mean that's a big news, and it's hard to imagine that they're not gonna support that and ratify that. So football, college football as we know it, is never going back to the way it was. Whether you're a big fan of the way it used to be and you wish that it was going that back that way, it's just not going to happen. And it's one of those things where we got to move with the times and support the players that we do have and hope that we get really good players. And
I will. Sorry.
no, no, go ahead, continue.
I was going to say, I will say, though, that with this new rule, I actually think it's good for the players that they're not going to have to sit out a year when they transfer. So I think it was kind of dumb to punish the player for seeking a better opportunity and making them sit out an entire,
Yeah,
you know, year before they can play with their new team. So I like that part of the new rule change a whole lot. I think everyone's still trying to figure out the transfer portal and NIL, and it's a lot of crap to try to put together in one sitting.
right.
So I mean, they're learning as they're going, and I think this is a really good and big step forward.
No, I would agree. I would agree. Um, it's hard to disagree with that. It really is. But speaking of the players that we're going to target, Q Freeze already came out, basically during the A game and talked about us targeting wide receiver and defensive lineman. And lo and behold, we have a target at wide receiver and a defensive lineman that we're looking at. And the wide receiver is a highly touted wide receiver. Now, speaking of
Yes.
NIL, are we willing to pay the money he's wanting to come in here, or no? What do you think, Josh? Keandre Lambert Smith out of Penn State.
Well, I mean, the guy's got a college resume. He was a
Yep.
highly touted guy out of high school. I mean, Auburn's pockets are deep enough with their NIL. I don't think they'd have any issue paying him what he would potentially want. I mean, he's not a world breaker. He has 1 year of
Right.
eligibility left, so it'd be a one and done for him. But I would be okay with them trying
Yeah.
to find a middle ground with him, even if it is more than a lot of people would think it is. Especially since there's so many players, especially in the wide receiver room, that are rumored to be flirting with the idea of entering the portal.
But the thing is those players that are flirting with the idea of leaving, uh, would you be sad if they left? I mean, honestly,
No,
outside of
I mean,
Caleb Burton
I'm always
is the only one
yeah. I
that
would
I've
be really
heard
sad
that
if
I'd
Caleb.
be
I don't
sad.
want to see him.
Yeah.
I don't. I hate seeing anyone leave Auburn, especially if it's on bad terms. I
Right.
mean, if it's a decision made by both parties, that it's best if they just parted ways and went in opposite directions. I mean, it sucks seeing players want to leave Auburn, but it's good. I still want to see them succeed, but I wouldn't be broken if a couple of the players in the wide receiver room left to seek better opportunities.
Right. Right. Well, we already know that unless something drastic has changed, we're not going to lose Camden Brown. So
Yeah,
he's going to stick around. The thing is the host for Locked On Nitty Lions, he did a little tidbit about this guy and was talking about how he's kind of a wide receiver too. He's not a wide receiver one, which hey,
yeah.
we pretty much know we got a wide receiver one in Cam Coleman, but this guy is seeking wide receiver one money. He is trying to seek, who is that wide receiver from Michigan State that went to FSU? Keenan Cole, was it Keenan Cole? Lit it up
I
this
don't
year.
think it
I think.
was Cole.
Yeah, I can't remember what his
That,
first name is,
I don't
but
think that's his last name.
okay. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Cole. But either way, he is a player that would definitely garner that kind of money. But this guy, I'm just not sure. I mean, you're looking at stat wise between 4 seasons. You know, now as he puts up a better numbers than Auburn wide receivers up to this point. But through 4 seasons, he's got 1,700 yards, 126 catches, and 11 touchdowns. Pro Football Focus had him at a 74.0 last year. So he's again not super great, but he brings a veteran presence, and we know that he can actually catch the ball. So I guess there's that.
Yeah.
He has a schedule. He had a visit scheduled for today, the day we're actually recording, Thursday the 18th. So I haven't seen anything or heard anything coming out of that. But hopefully it went well. And I would be again all for this guy joining us, but I just don't know if he's worth wide receiver one money.
Uh, I mean, at this point, you got to have the depth. You got to have players that can come in and actually make a difference. Otherwise, you pay for what you get. I mean, if
Yeah,
we are really hurting for depth, whenever it's his time to come in and what he's asking, like I said, if he's asking for an ungodly amount of money, then that's just a non-starter, and especially
yeah.
if he's not willing to budge. But if he's willing to at least negotiate, I feel like Auburn would be a fool to not entertain him at the very least.
That's fair. It's just hard because me being the pessimistic fan that I am, we haven't had Auburn hasn't had an impact wide receiver transfer in since Duke Williams. You know, they're just
That would
all
be
of them have
yeah,
been
that would be
bust.
Yeah.
That'd be the last one.
I don't know if he was a bust.
No, 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 no. I'm saying every other one has been a bust.
Oh, okay, okay, I
Yeah, yeah,
misheard
yeah.
you.
No, 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 no. Duke Williams was definitely not a bust. Yeah, I mean,
No.
yeah,
So I
no.
was gonna slap you across
In
the
the
monitor.
NFL, he was a bust, but not here at Auburn.
Absolutely. That sucks.
Uh, in addition to that, we're targeting defensive lineman Philip Bliddy. Um,
Is it?
he
I was listening to Locked on Auburn on Charlie Tuesday. They were like, is it Blitty or is it Bleedy?
Bleedy. Yeah, I don't know. Bleedy. I like Bleedy better. I mean, I guess.
Sure.
Um, but he comes from Indiana, and originally before that he was at Texas Tech. Um, he had a visit scheduled for the 17th, Wednesday, and he is also a fifth year senior, and racking up 70 tackles, 2.5 sacks. So gonna bring that veteran presence to the defensive line. We need all the depth that we can, and this guy can
Absolutely.
play Division I football. So I'm
I
all
feel
for
like
it.
he would be an immediate take.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I mean,
110%.
the defensive line looked really good. The freshmen looked really good in the A-Day game, but
They
you
did.
just you can't have enough depth on the defensive line. You really can't.
I agree with you.
Outside of that, there is the running back from Ohio State, Dallin Hayden, who Auburn is interested in,
What
and
what's his year?
he's a sophomore. He's a
Hmm.
sophomore. He had as a redshirt freshman last year. So he's a redshirt sophomore. As
Okay.
a redshirt freshman, he played in 3 games last year for 19 carries, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown. In 2022, he had 111 carries for 553 yards and 5 touchdowns. So 5'10", 205-pound back. He kind of, I think we could make it work. Again, speaking of Locked On Auburn, they were kind of talking about it. Kind of seems like if they're going after him, maybe we're gonna lose a running back. Um, I
It
think
would
he's a
have to be it would have to be God, his name just slipped out of my mind.
Alston
Batty.
or Betty. See,
Yeah, it would have to be Batty.
it kind of feels like, year wise with how young he is, he's essentially in the same class as Alston. And so it seems
Yeah.
like we're just trying to replace that. But man, you got to feel like Alston's going to be the bell cow next year, maybe.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely he will.
and
Actually
so
he might have a
hopefully,
hard time holding off Cobb
yeah, that's very
because
that's
Cobb
very
is
true.
going to be he's going to be a dangerous player because he's a receiver out of the backfield as well. We saw
Hmm.
that last year, and he's just going to get better the longer he's on the roster. So the only running back I could imagine them trying to replace would be Batty.
Yeah, I just don't know how much he would replace what we have Batty doing is what I was saying.
Well,
So
I'm just talking about roster spot
okay,
because we
I
didn't
got you.
sign any running backs in 2024.
Yeah.
We don't have any 2025 running backs committed. So I mean, this guy's got college experience. He could be almost an immediate depth piece if
Oh yeah.
if he were to transfer to Auburn.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Um, well, sticking on the topic of transfers, let's talk about something that nobody in the Auburn community really seems to be talking about, and that is Cam Newton. The great thing about our show
Well,
is you and I
you're
both.
forgetting someone huge in the transfer portal that Auburn's
Oh,
targeting.
my
You
bad,
did,
listeners. My bad.
yeah,
Here,
and
Josh, you got the floor.
it could be a package deal with this transfer with his brother in high school.
Ah, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Traquan Fagans from USC. He's said that he wanted to play with his brother in college. His brother is coming in the 2025 class. His brother is a four-star safety out of Alabaster, Anquan Fagans.
Yep.
And Anquan's supposed to be committing here to his college of choice soon. And a lot of people are thinking that Traquan is waiting to announce where he's transferring to for when his brother commits. So that could be a huge 1-2 punch package deal that we're getting. And Traquan Fagans ain't no slouch either. He
No,
would
he's
be
not.
a sophomore coming into this next year. He didn't have a whole lot of playing time at USC, but that's not to take away his skill. I've watched some film on this guy. He knows how to track the ball. He knows how to keep receivers on his hip,
Yeah.
and this it would be really big. Traquan Fagans. A lot of people aren't talking about him. Case in point, Cameron.
Yeah.
But
Slipped my mind. Yeah.
it could be really huge. We could be getting even more good news coming
Right.
soon.
Yeah, and just completely, our defensive backfield is just stacked, and so
Yeah,
just add another player. I'm all
it's
for
so
it.
good.
I'm all
Let's
for
go.
it. So now, anybody else that I'm missing, Josh, or are we good? Because
Oh, we're good. We're good.
okay, good, good. I
I
I
was
should
hoping
have
you forgot
deferred.
about
I
it just
should
so
have
I could
asked you.
interrupt you.
So, what I was saying is the beauty about this show is you and I have both, come out and said, hey, we don't have any insider information. We're just Auburn fans talking about Auburn. And something comes up in the media and we want to talk about it, by
We're
golly,
gonna.
we're going to talk about it. And although this is not relevant to this year's team or anything like that, I want to talk about Cam Newton's interview with Shannon Sharp um, on the Club Shay Shay show, and say that 10 times fast. Club Shay Shay show, uh,
Club Shay Shay Show.
where he was talking about his recruitment out of Blinn College, and him deciding between Mississippi State and Auburn, and lo and behold, he dropped some knowledge on everybody. We all thought that it was somebody at Mississippi State that was, accusing Auburn of paying Cam Newton. Well, Cam Newton seems to think that it was Dan Mullen and his wife.
Dude, I knew that as soon as it was happening. There's no way that a booster was taking the reins and recruiting someone like Cam Newton. I was like, this has Dan Mullen written all friggin' over it.
Yeah.
Like the look on his face, you could tell that MFer was guilty about everything.
Yep, yep. And in the interview, Cam Newton was like, he kind of had a feeling that maybe it was Dan, but then after that Mississippi State game, he saw the coach and saw him face to face, and he just said something was off, and his little, his spidey sense went off, and he just knew that it was Dan Mullen, and it's just as Auburn fans, it was one of those times where we're all kind of panicking because we have been able to take the moral high road against Alabama all the time and accuse them of paying their players and us never having to worry about it. And it was the one time in our history where you kind of like, in football. I mean, obviously there's Charles Barkley in basketball, which, that's widely
It's
reported,
past
but
statute limitations, Karen. We don't talk about
right.
it.
Um, but it was alarming as an Auburn fan, but at the same time, Cam, the way he played, you see it looked like he was just out there and didn't have a care in the world, and so you just had to think he was legitly not guilty. And FBI investigated his family for a long time and couldn't find anything.
That's all the
And
evidence I needed.
yeah, yeah. And, I actually always thought that it actually was his father since he admitted to it. But in this interview, they go and talk about how Cecil just he just jumped on that grenade for Cam. And man, the dude is a reverend. He's a church man, and you gotta love and appreciate what he was willing to do for his son, and how hard that had to be for Cam Newton to sit back and let his dad do that,
Yeah,
because
especially if no one actually took money.
right, exactly,
I would imagine most good fathers would do that for their son, especially if those kind of allegations are coming out
yeah, yeah,
against their offspring. But I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people that are like, ban that guy from anything Auburn related. I don't want him anywhere
yeah,
near the program. But after watching that part of the interview, I'm like, holy smokes, what a good dad, what a
Yeah.
stand up guy.
And I felt bad for what I did. Like you said, I was on that bandwagon of saying, hey, he took money. If he was trying to pose as Cam and trying to, wheel and deal in the background, then yeah, ban him and separate them and everything. But
Yeah,
it didn't sound like Cam, blamed Auburn for taking that stance. It seemed like he kind of, they had their hands were tied, is the way that he kind of, it kind of seemed when he was explaining it. But he has no love lost for the freaking Heisman committee because they wouldn't even let his dad be there at the committee at the ceremony. So I mean, I hate that it happened to him. I love that Cam is still able to stand by the fact that his dad didn't take any money, and us Auburn fans were able to still hold our head high and point to this as an outstanding Auburn man.
yeah, outstanding. He's a true and blue
Oh
Auburn
yeah,
man, and it's very visible anytime you hear him talking anything about Auburn. You can just see the love just emanating from his eyes.
yep, yep. Um, so moving away from football, we got some crazy good basketball news. The news that everybody in the Auburn community had been praying, had been hoping for. I am sure there were tons of prayer circles in the state of Alabama just praying for Janai Broom to come back. And we got the announcement that
Dear Lord, baby Jesus,
number four on the court, number one in our heart, Janai Broom, coming back to the Plains and is going to lead
so
this
good.
Auburn
We got the
Tigers
big
team
three
next
coming
year.
back. Love it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So like Auburn's front court is easily going to be the most polished front court in the SEC and possibly the NCAA. It's just, especially with the rumors of the coaches wanting to put more emphasis on Dylan Cardwell being the starting five, putting
Yep.
Janiah Broom back in his true position as power forward, and just letting those guys develop even more to win Auburn more games.
Yeah.
It's just huge,
And
astronomically huge.
and now if they're playing Janai and Cardwell on the floor at the same time most of the year, Channing Johnson is now coming off the bench rather than being your starting power forward, which I'm all for.
Oh, for
I
sure.
love Channing Johnson. I was championing him since the Florida game. Kind of ahead of his ascension. I kind of saw that coming. I was a little bit ahead of the curve, but I think he is best served coming off the bench for
Oh,
this
absolutely,
team right now.
110%.
And you gotta really love the fact that Janai is going to come back and Auburn had to drop. I mean, I'm sure there haven't been any reported numbers, but they had to drop a bag.
Oh,
I'm
they
sure.
had to have. They
I'm
had
sure
to
they're
have
paying this man a whole lot of
because he
money.
was he was a top 30 projected pick in the NBA draft. So it's kind of hard to imagine it wasn't a big number or big
Yeah,
for us to process, but you really can't put a value on that type of experience and the depth at those positions. You just really
I
can't.
can. I can put a value on that. It's called a national title. That's the value I want. That's what I want. And the thing is this is going to be one of the most seasoned and veteran teams in the SEC next year.
Yes.
It's hard to
Oh
imagine
yeah.
that we're not going to be competing for a national title. Okay, not just an
All I
SEC
gotta say,
title,
man, is
a
just
national.
schedule Yale for the regular season.
Right?
Schedule them.
Get
Just
that
just
out
make
of
it
there.
happen. And
Yep.
it doesn't
Get some
matter what we
revenge.
got to do. You make that friggin' happen.
I agree. I agree. So with Janai Broom coming back, we're looking at here's our projected starting five. We got JP Pegues. We got Denver Jones at the two. Okay. We got now. Here's a big question. Okay, because Chris Moore is undecided, and starting with the SEC tournament, man, that dude turned it on. And so he would, he could possibly come back. So at the starting three, we're gonna have Chris Moore or Chad Baker Mazzara.
If it's not
Uh,
Chad Baker Mazzara, then it's wrong.
well, Chris Moore started for part of the season, so it
Well, I
doesn't
understand
necessarily
that.
mean. that he
Chad
won't
Baker turned it on
again.
in the second half of the
I
season.
agree. I agree. I think it's going to be Chad, whether Chris Moore comes back or not. Uh, Janai Broom at the 4 and Dylan Cardwell at the 5, with backups being Tahad Pettiford, um, again Chris Moore, Jahil Howard or Jakai Howard. I don't know what I did there. Chaney Johnson and Darian Scott. Darren Scott, who was a JUCO last year and said to be a project player that they were bringing along. So I would imagine we're going to see him get some minutes at the power forward position this year as well. Um, Basically, this team should be better than last year's team, right? As long as we get some point guard production.
On paper, it should be. If Auburn you get more production from their point guards and guards in general, to be honest with you, they get more production from their guards. It's just going to open the entire court up for Bruce's full offense. It's just this front court coming back for the most part is going to do nothing but great things. I wish Jalen Williams had a sixth year in him, but well, obviously that's not going to happen. But no, this just opens up a world of roster lineups and
Mm-hmm.
different combinations for these players because you know realistically, Janai Broom could even play the three, so we could possibly see him stepping in at the three for a few minutes a game.
Janai Broom
Yes, that
at
boy
the
can ball
3.
handle. Have you not seen him pass?
I have, but he is not going to play the 3. We are not
I
going
mean, you
so
never know,
big
Cameron.
that Janai
You
Broom,
never know.
Cardwell, and another big are going to be out there. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
You
He,
never know.
yeah, no, not going to happen. But like you said, this front
Slap
court
bet,
is yeah, okay, slap bet.
slap bet. We're gonna see Janai at the three at some point in the season.
No. Uh, but this front court is going to be dangerous. I was stoked whenever we got news that Cardwell was coming back, and now that we got
That was
Janai
huge as
as
it
well,
is.
yeah, yeah, it was huge because then we didn't have to target any centers in the transfer portal.
And we've
But
lost no energy from any of the players with him coming back. Obviously, we
well,
lost Katie Johnson,
Katie,
our
yeah,
resident psycho, but Dillard Cardwell has got a lot of energy, and we have Chad coming back. It's gonna equal out.
I agree. But so do you think Bruce is going to go after another point guard? Or is he going to roll
I
with
think.
Denver running the point sometime and Pettiford running it sometimes and JP
Well,
Pickies?
we obviously saw what Denver could do at the point guard, so I know
Mm-hmm.
he's going to run point at some point in time
Yeah,
during the
that
season,
would make
multiple
sense.
times. But with JP Pegis and Tahad Pettiford being really the only true points on the roster, it would kind of be foolish to not at least target that third point guard that could play both one and two.
Well, I mean, and Bruce has already come out and said that Pettiford is going to be primarily used as a shooting guard, and
Oh, sure,
so
but he's obviously going to play point guard. He's a true point
yeah,
guard
he will.
that's probably best served as the two, especially when it comes to shooting the ball because he's a friggin' deadeye. But it would really be foolish and a shot in the foot if they didn't at least try.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I hope they do. Um, Does he now? Here's the other question: do we go and find maybe another center or power forward that can play a center, or do you
We're
think he
really
just
going to have
rolls with what
to.
we have?
We're really going to have to find a guy that has actual college experience through the portal or the JUCO ranks.
Right.
I really don't know who else we have to play the five other than Janai and Cardwell.
Yeah, I think it's
We
just
had a bunch of
the
bench guys that were big
walk-ons.
guys,
Yeah.
but yeah, but you got to have more depth to give those two because there's no way they can keep both those guys on the court at the same exact time. There's just no
Right.
way. We have
Right.
someone to replace Janai Broom at the power forward position,
And Chaney
but
Johnson.
there's really no one else to spell Dylan Cardwell unless it's Janai Broom when they're replacing him at power forward, and that would just really wear Janai just dead. So they would really have to target someone to come in and play center.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I would agree. So obviously, Janai Broom is going to be the leading scorer on this team again this year. Who's going to be our number two scorer this year?
I would have to say JP Pegues or Chad Baker Mazzara.
Wow. Okay,
JP
JP
Pegues
McGee's.
averaged 18.3 points a game. So
Wow.
he's gonna get his points. We all know Denver Jones can shoot, especially he hit the point. A lot of points will come from him, especially if he can turn it on
That's who I think.
early in the season, like he did in the second half of the season in 2023-24. But I would assume after Janai, it would be Pegues or Chad Baker Mazzara.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking Denver Jones is going to be the number two man. I think that they're gonna that before Broom came back, he was going to be the bell cow on the offensive side, and even now that Broom is back, I think they're going to rely heavily on him. I think they used him to assimilate himself into the team this year, and really had a plan for him to be this upcoming season, be that scorer that we know he can be. And so, yeah, no, I'm thinking Denver Jones is going to be the real deal next year. Now, don't get me wrong, Chad Baker Mazzara is going to be in double digits, and I think Pegues is going to be in double digits. If we get double digit points out of our point guard, man, oh, I am going
There's just
to.
there's no ceiling if he gets if we start getting points from the
Well,
point guard
okay.
position.
Well,
There's
well
just no
speaking
ceiling.
speaking of that, then, what is this team's ceiling as it's currently constructed? What should Auburn fans be expecting heading into the season?
Um, the ceiling right now would at least be making it to the dance. I would say that's the ceiling. The floor should be a 4 or 5 seed in the SEC tourney.
Wow. Okay. Uh, so okay. Well, okay. So I'm a little confused. So if the ceiling is making the dance, but the floor is a 4 or 5 seed, those two things go together. The
Well,
dance
just
the
because you're a
dance
four or
is the
five seed
NCAA
in the
tournament.
I know, just because you're a 4 or 5 seed in your conference doesn't guarantee you're going to make the dance.
Oh, you said conference. Okay, I thought you said 4 or 5
Yeah,
seed in the tournament, meaning
well, the
the
conference
NCAA
tournament is what I
tournament.
said.
My bad. I just heard
Okay.
tournament, so that's why I was like, "What are you talking about?" Man, I'm. Oh man, I am going to be booging, man. I this team, the ceiling is SEC champs, regular season, tournament,
Regular
and
season champs, huh?
yeah, and and national champs is the ceiling for this team. There's too much returning production for us to not be legitimate title contenders, which this year we were title contenders. We really were. Statistically speaking, we met certain criteria that allowed this team to have a legitimate top 10 chance of winning the national title. Okay?
Yes.
I think this team. A couple weeks ago, we had a an argument about Jake Crane and expectations Auburn fans should have, and I was so against Crane and the way that he handled it. But I am booging
Here you
like
are,
no one.
sunshine pumping.
I am booging like no one has booged before. This team, it is just through the roof. The floor for this team, the floor for this team should be the Sweet 16. It really should.
Wow, that is a lot of pressure to be putting on the team.
Yeah. No,
That's
it
a
definitely
lot of
is.
pressure.
It definitely is. But I think they're going to have the pressure put on themselves. I think Janai Broom came back because he's got something to prove. He was, we talked about it in the Yale game. He rushed his shot as he was falling down. He thought he had less time. And I guarantee you, he wakes up in the middle of the night in cold sweats, still thinking about that. That play goes over and over and over again in his head. And
It'll probably haunt him for a while.
that's not the one play that cost us the game. I'm not saying that. But I would imagine that for him, because of when it happened, it is the one that plays over and over in his head that he feels like he let the team down. And I I am so glad to see this man back. He is. I'm excited to see what he adds to his game because hopefully get better at shooting three. Get
He
better
added a lot
footwork.
this past season, let alone.
Yeah.
And you could obviously tell there was still a lot of room for improvement. Not saying that he's not polished in any of the areas that he's playing in,
Hmm.
but you could tell he still had the ability to improve even more.
He does.
And
He does.
his three ball came on really quickly last year. Everyone was shocked when he took his first three of the season, and then he just kept jacking them up and was like surprisingly good at shooting the three for the position he plays.
Yeah. So I'm all for it. I think he's got to get a little bit better with his footwork,
Yeah,
and but this team, the sky is the limit for this team. Neville Arena is going to be sold out
rocking.
every game. It is going to be rocking, dude, rocking.
You better believe, especially on senior night, if that place
Mm,
doesn't have people just waiting outside to come in
right.
for people leaving early, then Auburn did something wrong.
Yep. Yep. So, I just absolutely love the recruiting that this coaching staff has done in bringing Chennai back. I would have loved to have been in
Yes,
on those pitches and trying to sell the vision for the team and I wonder how hard it was of a sell, or if Broom was just like, Coach, don't even waste your breath. I'm coming back. Let's do this.
he probably did weigh his NBA options for a hot minute, but then you can't.
Made the right
You
choice.
got to imagine that something the coaches said actually like pushed that decision over the edge. Like, yeah, I got to come back to Auburn. But I kind of feel like he was 60-40 leaning NBA, and this just helped Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So with all this being said, preseason. I know it's real. We're getting out ahead of ourselves, but preseason rankings. Where's Auburn? Are we inside the top 10?
I would say we're in this inside the top 15 for sure. Top 10 is a little early right now in my eyes. Top 15 is way more realistic. I'm not saying they wouldn't climb the rankings fast once the season starts,
Yeah.
but I would imagine a top 15 preseason ranking.
See, I'm gonna keep on booking. Top 10, baby. Top 10 preseason. That's what they should be.
What number
They
inside the
won't
top
be.
10, Cameron?
Number 8. Number 8.
Okay. Okay, so you're
Um,
keeping your expectations a little lower than I was expecting. Yeah,
they won't be ranked there. They'll be lucky to be in the top 20. They won't get any respect. They never do.
everybody hates
Bruce
Auburn.
Pearl Bruce Pearl never does. Everyone hates him in the media. Everyone the voting people. They all hate Bruce. And hey,
Well, they can
underestimate
suck a
us.
stick.
Underestimate us and see what happens. So
It's gonna be bad for them.
hell yeah,
What are your thoughts on Aiden Holloway rumored to be a silent commitment to Alabama?
man. I didn't even want to bring this up.
I had to, man. I had to. It's huge.
It kind of feels like a stab in the back, doesn't it? Like
It really does, because in
at
my
no,
opinion, a majority of the fan base wanted the kid to do good, wanted him to succeed, and
yeah.
now that majority is like, you go to Bama,
Oh, it's
all's fair
over.
in love and war.
Yeah, it's over. And the thing is,
Especially when you
is
come back
is
to Neville, it's just
this coaching staff never gave up on him. They
it's
continued to
true.
start
He
him,
gave up on
continued to give him
himself
the
and he
green
gave up
light.
on the coaches.
Yeah. And so if this is the way he wants to repay him, oh man, that the first time he touches the ball inside Neville Arena, he will hear it from the crowd.
110%, man. Like I'll be the first one to tell you, you know this for a fact. I want the kid to do nothing but succeed. But
Unless
if
he
he
goes to
goes to
Bama.
Bama, it's like, yeah, if he goes to Bama, I'm less inclined to root for him than I would
Yeah.
be if he went to, USC or something.
Uh-huh. There's been one player in the history of my life that came from the University of Alabama that I was like, you know what? I like that dude, and I hope he succeeds.
Mac Jones.
No, no,
You
Jalen
love the
Hurts.
Patriots drafting Mac Jones.
I did at the time, but Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts. I
I
mean,
mean,
you can't
I don't
argue with
even
that.
consider him a Bama player anymore.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying he was like the one. The way they handle either way, Aiden
Yeah, I was about
Holloway
to say
would be
the
dead
only
to me.
reason I would agree with you only because he was done dirty by the coaching staff hardcore. So it's
Oh,
like I want him to prove that coaching staff so wrong, and he did.
I can't blame the coaching staff though when you got Tua sitting there.
I mean, Jalen had one more year left at Alabama because
Still,
he was definitely going to leave for the draft.
yeah. Either way, uh, anything else? Anything else on the agenda tonight, Josh? I think we pretty much covered
Um,
everything.
we covered a lot tonight. I don't really no. I talked about everything I want to talk about. Had a good
Okay.
time doing it too.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. As always, everybody, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to press the like button. Press it. Do not forget to hit the notification bell. And as always, War Eagle and War Eagle Josh.
War damn eagle.